A plus.
Holy moly, the show, man! Like, how's it been feeling? It's the biggest thing in the world right now.
I mean, it's a dream. Stepping into the show, I had no idea how it was going to be received. I just wanted to make sure I didn't ruin it.
Like in your performance, you didn't ruin it.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'd say mission accomplished on that front. Yeah.
Let me just talk about some of the accolades. So, the season 2 premiere helped push the show as the most watched show in Apple TV Plus's history, over Ted Lasso. One critic said it is to be expected that the sci-fi genre, if not television itself, will be measured against Severance for years to come. So, Zach, what's it been like since season 2 premiered?
Wow.
Right?
Those are quite stunning words. It has been kind of crazy season 2. Like season 1 was a lot of fun and a lot of people connected right away, but it was sort of a slow build and it was fun watching people discover it. And then season 2, it's been like we're shot out of a cannon a little bit.
Tramell, have you noticed anything different in your life? Is it different when you walk down the street?
Yeah, my face is everywhere. It's on T-shirts.
Is that true?
It is. There's an Etsy shop with our faces on things and dolls and
Stickers.
Yeah, artwork everywhere.
How have you been adjusting to all that?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
What do you mean?
They didn't teach us this in grad school. How do you deal with this level of popularity and notoriety? So, I just take it in day by day, and I'm really humbled and fascinated by the love of this show. There's a lot of hard work that went into this. A lot of love, a lot of heart, from the cast, the crew as well, our designers, directors as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm just taking a back seat and just really being appreciative of all of this,
Zach, is your life any different? And how are you adjusting to that?
Yeah, you got to build in like 6 more minutes into each commute because someone's going to want to stop and talk about the show or take a picture or something, I also have a nervous dog who doesn't love...
Yeah, the dog's name is it Shrek?
The dog's name is Shrek, yes.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
She doesn't love new people, but honestly, it has kind of helped her get used to people because now people are constantly coming over and being like, hey, I love the show. And my dog is like, but now she's calmed down a little bit.
What's been interesting is to see, as much as the show's been like widely loved, there's been an equal amount of sort of like analysis of why the show has been loved. A lot of theories about why the show has gotten so popular. One is post-pandemic, a lot of people started to question their relationship between their home life and their work life. Another is people began to question why they were spending so many hours of the work selves at all. And then a lot of people just said it was about, the allure of skipping work entirely and waking up at home and how nice that would be some days. So Tramell, I'll start with you. Like, what was the idea that resonated with you when you found out the story of Severance?
It was different. It was unlike anything that I have read before.
Yeah.
So that was intriguing. And then the character Milchick had a lot of mystery behind him. Mm-hmm. And so I was just intrigued as an actor to step into this and bring life to it.
I locked you in a room like an animal, Mark. As an unsevered man, I'll carry that knowledge the rest of my life.
What did you make of the idea behind it?
Well, honestly, the breakdown was that Milchick is in his 20s to 40s, African-American, enthusiastic company man. That was it.
They didn't tell you anything else?
No. I had to fill in the blanks from there, But and I auditioned with the red ball scene, and from season 1, and at that point, it really felt that this guy is like he's a coach, he's authoritative, he can be nice, he can be mean. And so really it was just taking a shot at the dark. And from there, we started discovering more about who this guy is, working with Dan and Adam and kind of guiding the process. And it just blossomed from there.
What were you drawing on to develop that character?
My past experiences. I worked in corporate America.
Did you?
I did.
Where?
I worked in New York. I did a little bit in Jackson, Mississippi as well. The organizations were fine. I just was not my best self at them, because I wasn't doing what I love to do, and I love telling stories. I love acting. I love performing. So, doing the desk job 9 to 5 was grueling for me.
Yeah. We both spent time as office managers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Where were you, Zach? Where were you?
I worked in New York as an office manager at a small nonprofit, but yeah, we put in the office managing time.
I didn't know you did nonprofit work.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I did nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
See
just,
there?
you guys were just method the whole time. That's what you saw. Yeah, you didn't know that you were method the whole time. Hold on, Tramell. So I want to go back to what you said, though. You said that you did you draw upon people that you knew in your office?
Oh, man. People, employers,
Did you have a Milchick in your
employees.
office? Did you?
Not so much. It was more of an amalgamation,
Right.
You know,
Right.
and then just drawing from how I would handle these situations, you know, is really what birthed Milchick.
Zach, what was intriguing to you? But also, was your breakdown as vague as Tramell's?
I don't remember, which means probably yes. Yeah, you know, I was definitely the script for the first episode was so good, and I did like that it was. I liked the premise. I thought it was interesting, and I also liked that it was kind of hard to pin down in terms of like it's sci-fi, it's a thriller, it's also very funny and very dark and very weird. All that stuff really kind of drew me in.
What have people been telling you when they come up and scare your dog about why they love the show? Do they ever talk about their own work life?
Yeah. Sometimes it's really interesting seeing all the different ways that people come to it. One guy, I was with my dog. He came up and he was like, "Hey, I love the show. It kind of ruined my life."
What do you mean?
And I think what he meant, we didn't have a ton of interaction after that, but I think he basically just meant like it made him think so much about his job in such a different way that now he like has to kind of deal with that.
Right.
Which I definitely understand.
This is a question I'm aware could be for a TV critic more than it could be for the people who are in the show. But I do and if you don't have an answer, it's totally cool and we can figure it out. But do you have any theories as to why the show has taken off in the way that it has? Why people are watching the show and thinking so much about their own work?
I mean, there's a human element to it. You know, these characters I think are familiar. You know, there's so many of us who spend a lot of time in the workplace and understand what it's like to be at a job that may not be as fulfilling.
Yeah.
And create relationships with fellow coworkers. You know, I also think it's incredibly stunning to look at. Our cinematographer, you know, Jessica Liange and, you know, Ben Stiller have such a critical eye. Everything is so symmetrical and beautiful. It's like frames of art that we're watching.
But I like what you said there, the idea that there is something, we all know what it's like to sort of have a work life. And in that moment where your wife meets your people you work with and you realize that you may be a completely different person to one person, one person than the other.
There's an identity there too. I mean, the first line of the show is, "Who are you?" You know? And I think, especially with Milchick, there's an identity that he is struggling with. And I think there are other characters who may be in that boat as well.
Yeah, and that idea of like being someone slightly different at work, I can certainly relate to. Like when I was at my office job, I was also doing sketch comedy and improv comedy at night. But at work, no one really would have known that. You know, I was like, I kind of didn't want to get into it. I didn't really want to bring that part of me into that place. I don't really know why. Like I never really thought about why I felt like I needed to keep it separate.
Interesting.
Probably because I had to be appropriate at work.
Yeah. No one wants anyone doing a Herald in the break room. I get it, you know, I'm with you, you know. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I definitely do relate to that idea of like, you know, I have a kind of work mask that I put on a little bit.
Can I throw a theory at you that we've been talking about in our office?
Let's do it.
That there might be something to an actor's life in this as well. Because think about that. You walk on set as Tramell, then for 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11, 12 hours, you are literally someone else. You are literally playing someone else. And then at the end of the day, you have to go back to being yourself. Are we on to anything here?
Yeah, I think it depends on the actor and their process, for sure. But I think that's a strong theory.
In terms of that, I do think
I need this.
well, something we talk about a lot in terms of innies and outies, who are, you know, innies is what we call the characters when they're at work, and outies is what they're at home. We talk a lot about like what carries over and kind of what bleeds through. And I think for me as an actor, that is kind of a question when you're creating a character is you got to bring something of yourself to most of your characters, but not everything. And you kind of figure out what's coming from you and what are you leaving for yourself.
Very, very interesting. So I want to play a clip from the show. It's maybe the most famous clip from season 1.
Whoa, wow.
So at this particular moment, the refiners are getting a music dance experience. And since they have reached a certain level in their refining process, this is one of the perks.
So they're dancing.
They are
There's
dancing
a maraca.
to Defiant Jazz.
What
There's
is
maraca.
what are you doing here? What
I'm
move
doing
is
the
this?
Milchick shimmy. All of this is improv. So the lights, they came on when I pushed the button. I didn't even know that the ceiling did that. So this is absolute joy in the moment. The dance moves are in the moment. We're doing this marching. We're marching around. Doing a little hop, bop, bop, head bop.
Zach, what do you remember from this?
You know, this scene is so interesting for me because during this scene, everyone else is having a lot of fun, and I'm kind of sitting there stewing and thinking about my own stuff going on. So it was almost a totally different experience for me than for the rest of the group. I didn't get to show off my dance moves.
Uh-oh.
You would had to sit there
I
frustrating.
had to sit there and think, I could be doing such a great dance.
Dance challenge.
I like this. What do you call that move right there? I like
That's
whatever.
the raptor.
Because you're in Toronto, I appreciate it. That's very nice. Tramell, you dance is a big part of your life. I didn't know that when I watched the scene first, but when I did some research, I found that you danced when you were a kid at church, right?
I was in the interpretive dance ministry.
I didn't know there was an interpretive dance ministry in the church.
It was in my church. I wasn't in it long, unfortunately, because it was frowned upon for young black boys to dance in church. It was
within that community, or
within the community.
Okay.
Yeah, at that time, I appreciated the people who were supportive of me to express myself through dance.
right?
So that was just a struggle, to being able to be in the arts. In my upbringing, most black boys were athletes,
Yeah.
or really academic. And yes, I had to be very smart, but while I was athletically inclined, it wasn't where my heart was. So I would kind of, dance in my room.
As you went up through stage and through theater,
Yeah.
we're going to touch on this a little bit later, but was dance a big part of your life then as well?
It was always there.
Yeah.
I like to move. People ask me, am I a dancer? I like to say that I'm a mover in so many ways. Because, you tell people you're a dancer and then they think, you've been trained as a dancer. You're like ballet and tap. And while I've not been, in those in-depth classes and had that training, I've just always knew how to move. We played a lot of music in my house growing up, Marvin Gaye, a lot of Motown,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Curtis
Yeah.
Mayfield, The
Yeah.
Temptations.
Yeah.
So all of that, was an inspiration for me.
I mean, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but is there something to the fact that when you were dancing as a kid in church and you were kind of told you're not allowed to do it, and it wasn't okay for you as a young black kid young black male kid to do it, and now you're getting all this attention for dancing in this scene in Severance? There must be some meaning in that, and you must find it meaningful in some way.
So much, right? Because I was also told I'd never make it as an actor, and look at me now.
Who told you that?
I told him just before the interview. I was like, hey, before we go out there.
He did.
You're never going to make it. And you're not good at interviews with Canadians either. But that's true. You had people sort of betting against you.
They squandered on the dream a little bit. And, I realize now that they were probably speaking out of their own fear.
Yeah, fair enough.
And concern. But, you don't realize how much that stuff stays with you. Whether it's good or bad. And for whatever reason, I keep focusing on the bad, especially as a kid. Like that negativity just sits. And so that's something that I had to wrestle with for quite some time.
Oh man, I appreciate you talking. I want to talk a little bit more about some of your stage experience in just a second. And Zach, I want to talk a little bit about sort of how you approach this role with between your background in improv and a little bit of more serious acting. But can I just ask a Ben Stiller question? I think another part of this that was very surprising to us was that those of us who were outside the film industry and television industry was that Ben Stiller was going to make such a powerful, strange, beautiful, serious show in some ways. Because, those of us who would know him from his sitcoms or would know him from his films or know him from his parents or stuff like that. Zach, tell me something we might not know about working with Ben Stiller.
He is so focused and detail oriented, which similarly, I grew up watching him and loving, Meet the Parents and Zoolander, and you can see a little bit of his like quiet intensity in some of those roles, but you definitely, it was a surprise to me as well to kind of show up and start working with him as a director. It's like a whole different thing.
Tramell, do you have anything on that?
I just thought he was going to be funny.
He almost doesn't have time for it.
Like, no,
you know?
he doesn't.
I mean, that was a question
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to ask. Is like, is he funny on set? No.
He has his own sense of humor, but we're just really focused on set.
Yeah,
It's like it's no games.
yeah.
I mean, was dancing every now and then, but
Yeah,
goats,
we
but-
have fun, but it's very, we're locked in.
There's an analog there to be made to Uzak. So you and your Innie and Outie are really, really different in this show. At work, you're kind of, I mean, you're serious about your job, but you're also kind of funny. You're kind of sarcastic. You're kind of playful. When one side of your character is so funny, and I sort of know you from Improv, and I know you from the really funny scene in Succession, I would know you from more comedic roles and the baking show and all that kind of stuff, and UCB. What do you, and then the contrast is so apparent when you have to switch to that very serious, tortured, upset, angry part of your character. What are things you have to draw on? Are there things you have to draw on from your own life to get that contrast?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been angry. I've been, I've gone through all those things, and also as an improviser, even as a comedic improviser, you do get a chance to kind of just take so many bites at the apple in terms of you do like 100 scenes a week, kind of. You're just like experiencing all these different things. So that's all stuff that I kind of have done, even in a performance sense, but haven't really been asked to do in my professional career before. So
Hold
this
on.
has been.
Can I say it back to make sure I understand it? That
Yeah.
like I think about improv as getting up and doing, I don't know, like I think about like Colin Mockery, to be honest. You know what I
sure.
mean? I think about someone handing you a big tube and you have to figure it out. But what you're saying is that improv really teaches you a real depth of acting.
Yeah, I mean, the type of improv I do most often is long form improv. So we kind of just, oftentimes you just get up there and all you start with is a suggestion and then you're kind of finding the scenes together. So a lot of it is about just kind of committing to the reality of whatever scene you're playing in. And so sometimes that does, let you kind of flex all these different muscles that you might not even ever get a chance to do professionally, because I'm not going to ever play like a, angry velociraptor in my real life. Although, if anyone is casting, I'm happy to do it. But you get a lot of opportunities to kind of like try on different things while you're improvising that I do think helps me in my scripted work as well.
What is the most interesting thing to you about your character, Zach?
I think the most interesting thing to me about my Innie, which is who we spent so much time with at the beginning of the show, is his level of confidence. These Innie characters, they don't have a lot of actual life experience. They have some knowledge, but they've really only been like alive for a couple of years, most of them. So he hasn't had all these kind of like, he doesn't have any baggage. He doesn't have these bad experiences. He doesn't have this, world weariness weighing him down. So in some ways, he's this very, very confident version of himself. And to me, that's really fun to play. Let us have a funeral.
I'm sorry.
Irving is a person and he's gone. So we'd like to have a funeral. Not a retirement party, a funeral. Right?
What about the Outie?
The Outie has some of that stuff. The Outie kind of has other things going on that maybe that's why they don't present themselves in the same way.
How do you find playing the Outie?
It's fun. It's fun trying to find the distinctions and seeing, because it is the same guy.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking about, right? Is it? I don't act. I don't know anything about act. I did one guest role in a Canadian mystery show, by the way.
Hey.
Thank you very much. I know you recognized me when you came in.
I did.
But
I didn't want to say it.
That's the guy from the Canadian Mystery Show.
You were like, that's the Murdoch Mysteries banjo player from the last season. Thank you.
You play
very
the
much.
banjo?
Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. And we just, a bell went off because I mentioned it in every interview. Just trying to stay popular. I don't know anything about acting. What's interesting to me is that you are playing the same guy with, I think that's what I was building with the last question. You're playing the same guy. I don't even know if I have a question.
Yeah.
You're playing the same guy, but with two very different realities.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's like I primarily conceive of them as guys just with different circumstances, almost like a sliding door situation where the Innie is maybe the version of the Outie who never had all that baggage build up, and the Outie is a version of the Innie that has had these life experiences that have maybe pushed him one way or the other.
Tramell, what's the most interesting thing to you about your character? who doesn't have that Innie Outie life.
I think that's interesting that he's almost can't be defined. You know, I'll listen to people talk about Milchick and they really pontificate on who they think he is and so forth and so on. But I think the fact that it is not clear who he is, we just know that he is committed to this organization and he has shown himself willing to do whatever it takes to meet the goals of these organizations.
So what do you do when, as an actor, when he's a mystery to you too?
It's really important to trust in the language, right? And allow the writer to guide me to where to go. But for me, it's also understanding that he is human, you know? So finding ways to insert his humanity in these moments, and we see a lot of that in season 2. That makes him not just this two-dimensional figure, but more nuanced and more complicated.
Yeah, and again, I'm trying not to give anything away, but his humanity and his nuance comes out more and more as the thing goes on.
In a way, it blossoms.
Can I throw another theory at you, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong about this?
Go for it.
But it seems like a very, and again, I'm not an actor, it just seems like a very set-based show where there's a great importance placed on the set and the way you move within the set. And I know, Tramell, you've done a lot of theater on Broadway. Does your experience on stage inform the way you play this character?
Oh, absolutely. In building the character, you know, I felt that this guy is a keeper of secrets, you know? I interpreted him being a company man as almost military style. He's also like a soldier. So the way he holds himself is very strong, very tall. He has to be kind, but he also has to be a disciplinarian. So there's an energy that he has to be able to gain the trust and maintain the trust of the Innies and the Outies as well, but also be able to lay down the hammer when he needs to. So there's that dual world that he's playing in, you know, and we also see as the season airs that he has people that he has to answer to. So just like most people in middle management, you have the people under you, you have the people above you, and the people around you. And there's this constant navigation that you have to play with in order to communicate and get what you need from all of these levels.
How does this training in stage acting help you with any of that?
Well, a lot of it's, you know, body movement, how he moves through space.
Right.
You know, we talked about how strong he is, how his posture is very erect. You know, he takes steps and he's very purposeful. So me in exploring my time in grad school and understanding movement, we went to the zoo one time in grad school.
Hold on, what do you mean?
So it was a unit in grad school called animal study.
Okay.
So we went to a zoo.
This is drama school?
This is drama school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like biology.
No.
Okay, cool.
No.
Yeah.
The outside of the animal, not the inside.
Okay.
We went to the zoo and we had to pick an animal.
Yeah.
And basically study the animal. And that really was a door that unlocked for me in understanding how we move through space, understanding the structure of the animal kingdom, how animals communicate. And since, you know, we all are animals in ourselves,
Sure.
it was a lot of inspiration into navigating who Milchick is.
What animal did you pick?
Panther. Wait, for Milchick or for myself?
So let's go to the zoo. Who did you pick?
The river otter.
In the zoo, you picked the river otter?
I picked a river otter. And the reason I had to pick that because it was an animal that was unlike me. So the otters are very, like, they move around, they're quick. Lithe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, also energetic in a way that's very forward and upward and, like, kind of like, oh, squirrel, you know, that kind of thing. Like, they're always moving around. And I'm a little bit more calmer. So it was important for me in this exercise to really tap into another element of myself.
This is fascinating. And then you said for Milchick, you picked?
A panther.
Tell me.
I feel like he's like this big cat. It's like a big, you know, mountain lion. Like he can pounce at any moment. But then there's this quality about him that he kind of like bats people around, especially like the Innies, you know, and he's always watching. He never strikes when, you know, when it's not the right time. There's a plotting, there's a brooding that's there as well. And he's got that big smile, that big grin that can be very intoxicating and very mysterious as well. You don't know what that man's thinking.
I'm so fascinated by this in general, but also
Yeah.
I don't know if you were aware you were doing this. As you were talking about each animal, you were taking
Did I?
on you were taking on
You were doing the river otter, and you were
characteristics.
kind of
it was
and then
incredible.
You were doing the panther. I got a list of
Yeah.
animals we're gonna read out.
Okay.
And you can,
Okay.
I mean,
So I'm ready.
I really
Let's do
would.
it.
But yeah,
No, it was fun. It was a fun
gazelle,
exercise. Gazelle. Very elegant.
Zach, what has this show given you as an actor, as someone with a career in this world?
I mean, it's really given me the chance to do some things I haven't been asked to do before in my professional life. Like Ben and everyone have really trusted me to kind of go where I haven't gone before, and that's been really, really cool. Like, you know, I came up doing comedy, and so most of my roles have been kind of purely comedic, but it's been a lot of fun and a new challenge to show some different sides in the show.
Tramell, same question. What has this show given you?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah, confidence. You know, my first day on set, I was terrified. I never had the opportunity to work with these incredible artists. And some have worked with each other before. You know, their resumes are extensive and wonderful. Zach Cherry's work I've watched, you know. And so I had a lot to prove.
Yeah.
You know, in my first day on set, it was, you know, during the pandemic, right before vaccines were available. So we were very cautious in how we took care of one another and make sure we were all safe. And, you know, I was working with John Turturro.
Right.
That was my scene partner, day one.
Day one.
Day one. Okay. And then Ben Stiller, you know, the director.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a couple lines, I was fumbling the lines. There was choreography in the sense of, you know, walking this track and making sure that John and I were equidistant and I was in front of him, but I had to make sure that I was not walking too far in front of him, but I couldn't turn and look back, so I didn't know how far he was or close. And then you had to wait for the camera to pivot and turn on the right angle and say the line at the right angle. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember two things. One, John said to me, Tramell, just let go. You know it. Just let go.
Turturro said that to you.
He said that to me.
Okay.
Which was really kind. The second thing is Ben had a walkie-talkie that sat at the edge of the walkway because he was back in the scene and he could not be on set. And he said, I have good news and I got bad news. Good news, we're going to do it till we get it right. Bad news, we're going to do it till we get it right.
That could be the ethos of the show, basically.
I mean, really. But that gave me the laugh that I needed. And I was able to breathe and, you know, do the scene and have fun and open up to my cast and really stretch, you know, with his character and play with new levels in my own arsenal.
Right.
You know, explore my inner panther. And it gave me a lot more confidence.
It's
Ownership.
Let me. I don't mean to be cheesy, but let me close off by telling you that I think what you and this work and this show have given a lot of us is, like I said at the top, 2025, rough year, rough year for a lot of people, and I think you've been giving people an hour a week to have a bit of a break, to think about something bigger than themselves, and a lot of comfort and a lot of good stuff right now. So thanks for it, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah. That's beautiful to hear.
Yeah.
Joyful to have you. My guests are the actors Tramell Tillman and Zach Cherry. Zach, what animal would you be?
Ooh. Panda, I guess. I like panda.
Yeah, they're all right. Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pandas are cool.
Yeah.
Or like one of those deep sea fish.
Yeah, one of the ones you don't even see.
Yeah,
though.
they don't even have a name.
Yeah, they're just down there.
Yeah.